Okay, good afternoon. I am calling the regular Parks and Recreation Commission meeting for Wednesday, January 25th, 2012 to order. If we could all rise for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. McGill, could we have roll call, please?
Chair Wiscombe.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Ferrara.
Here.
Longstreet. Here. Trentacosti.
Here.
Intern Yee. K-Spear and Jacobson are not present.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McGill. I would like to welcome Councilmember Murillo to the meeting. Thank you very much for attending. She is our new liaison as of yesterday, right? Yep. So we welcome you. And I'd just also like to add my, on behalf of the Commission, our appreciation to Grant House, Councilmember House, for his service last year as our council liaison. So welcome, and we're glad to have you here. Okay, so moving on. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, and we have no written communications, right? Is anyone here for public comment on an item that's not on the agenda? You're here for public comment on an item that's not on the agenda? You know, I'm talking to the gentleman in the back there. You are, okay. Did you fill out a speaker slip? Great. Okay, could you bring it forward, please? Any member of the public may address the Commission for up to 1 minute on any subject within the jurisdiction of the Commission that is not scheduled for public discussion before the Commission. So, would you step forward, please?
Hi, Rick Goodfriend.
Okay, great. Thank
Rick
you.
Goodfriend. And I'm speaking later on a subject. That's okay. So November 5th, I was down by the beach. I was helping the Alzheimer's walk, and I was accosted by a transient. And I just want you to know that it's not safe down there right now. And it wasn't back then. So I'm wondering if you can get more police to come and just patrol the area. I'm out of breath because I was rushing here. So that's my only comment.
Okay.
I thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. And I would probably, since that's really not in our jurisdiction, I would probably recommend that you go to a council meeting and city council meeting and make that comment.
There's the beach parking lot, so I think that is.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. That. Seeing that there's no one else, I'll close public comment, and we're moving on to a special report, which is the status of the redevelopment agency projects.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, with all of the changes at the state level with the redevelopment agencies and for us here at the local level in Parks and Recreation, as we have benefited in so many ways from the redevelopment funds, I thought that it would be important to have the Commission receive an update on the current status of the redevelopment agency and the redevelopment projects. So I asked Brian Bossy, who is the Housing and Redevelopment Manager, to come and give you a report and then to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rapp. Mr. Bossy, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me, although I really wish it was on a more positive topic and a project we're working with you folks on, but that's not the case today. My purpose, as Ms. Rapp said, is to update you on the situation regarding redevelopment agencies in the state of California. And I just want to start off by saying it's an ever-changing situation, and the legislation that was passed, and I'll get into this in a little bit, is very gray. It's very conflicting in a number of areas. And so we're trying to decipher what all this means and do what is appropriate. So with that, the redevelopment agency has been a part of the city of Santa Barbara since 1972. It was actually activated in 1977, so it's been here quite a long time. Over the years, the redevelopment agency has been responsible for a number of projects that you may know of, including Paseo Nuevo, downtown parking structures, including parking structures 10, 12, the Granada Garage, and a number of other surface parking lots. Also, the redevelopment agency worked with parks regarding the Chase Palm Park expansion project, the restoration of the historic railroad depot. Recently, we're still wrapping this one up, is the rehabilitation of the Creo Recreation Center. We've been involved with the Louise Lowry Davis Center, the West Side Center's playground, and currently we're in the process of we're paying for, and your staff is managing the Plaza Del Mar and Pershing Park restrooms. So we've done a lot of projects over the years, and that's obviously not just me. That's a whole host of people before me and a wonderful staff. And we're also responsible for the development of affordable housing in the city of Santa Barbara. We're I guess the friendly funder to housing agencies in the area, and that's a big part of what redevelopment agencies were created for. As a matter of fact, 20% of our income minimum comes off the top and goes right to the development of affordable housing. So we work very closely with our affordable housing providers, and in the past have been involved with production of Garden Court, El Carrillo, St. Vincent's, Casa de las Fuentes, and Artisan Court, among many, many others. I think the grand total of affordable units we've been involved with in the city of Santa Barbara represents about 8% of the total housing stock in the city. So that's quite significant. But despite all these wonderful successes, as part of the state legislature's efforts to balance the budget, for the past number of years, they've come after redevelopment agencies and taken funds from them, given them different names over the years, Educational Revenue Augmentation Fund, to the tune of, over the past 5 years, I believe it's a little over $12 million that we've had to pay back to the state so they can help fill their budget holes. In response to not only that, but the continuous taking by the state from other local pots of money, the voters in November 2010 passed Proposition 22, which basically said, state, you can't do that anymore. Local funds stay with the local agencies and the local communities. In response to that, the state immediately mounted an effort, and last January 2011, when Governor Brown came out with his budget, they had a two-pronged approach to continue to work around Prop 22 and get money from redevelopment agencies. And what they did is they developed, again, a two-pronged approach that was passed in June as part of the state budget. AB 26, I'm just going to shorten it down, I'm just going to call it 26 for simplicity's sake, is what is known as the dissolution bill. And what that is 26 says redevelopment agencies, you're done, you're eliminated. Then immediately passed AB 27, which says, however, if you want to come back and be a redevelopment agency, we'll let you do that as long as you pay the state a certain amount of money this year as well as in future years. The idea was that they would go together. And so everybody got what they wanted in a sense, meaning redevelopment agencies wouldn't be killed. Most people would opt for the pay-to-play portion, where they would be reinvented and pay the state. So redevelopment agencies would still exist in a lesser form. The state would get money and help balance their budget. This was quickly challenged by the California Redevelopment Association and the California League of Cities. And because of the importance of the timeliness and just the bills as a whole, the Supreme Court took it up immediately. And although most of the legislative body said these go as a package deal, that's why we're okay with them. Some of them didn't want to kill it, but they thought it'd work out to the benefit of everyone. The Supreme Court came back on December 29th and ruled that the pay-to-play version, AB 27, was unconstitutional, meaning it violated going back to Prop 22 and the proposition that the people passed in November of 2010. They said, AB 27, you're unconstitutional. However, the dissolution bill, AB 26, that is constitutional. The state created you, the state can take you away. And so it was essentially a worst case scenario that a lot of folks were not planning on. And it includes a very rapid transition period. By February 1st, all redevelopment agencies in the state of California must be dissolved. And so that's just coming up here next Wednesday, I believe. So that's over 400 redevelopment agencies in the state of California are currently working on this dissolution and trying to figure out this legislation. And again, I said it was confusing, and it is. There are a number of parts in it. It's gray throughout, but there are a number of parts. For example, in one section it will say all of your unencumbered affordable housing funds get swept up and given to the county, and then they disperse them among the taxing entities. One page later it says all of your unencumbered affordable housing funds get to stay with the city. So there's these inherent conflicts, and so there is legislation being moved up in Sacramento, one, to push that February 1st date out. We're a medium-sized redevelopment agency. We have one project area, but then you look at places like Los Angeles, and I believe they have 27 project areas. I'm not sure if you read the papers last week, but they are laying off 192 people in the redevelopment agency. So this really has big implications, not only for the government staff, but your contractors, your electricians, and on down and on down. So this process of unwinding the redevelopment agency is very complicated. We have been meeting at least 1 to 2 times a week with the city administrator, the assistant city administrator, our city attorney's office, and a number of other folks trying to work our way through this legislation, making sure we meet the dates that we are required to meet. We have sat in on, actually now they have daily phone conferences. I believe I sat on one the last 3 or 4 days. Last week I sat on one with city attorneys from around the state, with over 100 city attorneys. So people are very confused with this legislation, trying to figure it all out. There's a whole lot more questions than there are answers, but we're doing our best to make it happen. As noting the uncertainty of the legislation, what we have done as a redevelopment agency is we have put all of our projects on hold. I shouldn't say all. There are a few that were allowed to continue, and that's because they were in the construction phase. And that includes a few parks-related projects, including wrapping up the Carrillo Recreation Center, completing the Chase Palm Park electrical upgrades, and completing both Plaza Del Mar and the Pershing Park restroom renovations. However, all of our other projects, whether they were in design or just in the very conceptual phase, have been put on hold. The reason being, we're not sure, and the legislation isn't clear, is if we continue to spend that money, whether it's $1 or $1 million, our understanding is that if the state comes back and says you can't do that, you need to pay us that money back, that would then be a general fund obligation. And we don't want to put that burden on the general fund. So we're playing it very safe and just moving forward with those few projects that were in the construction phase. There are many interesting things to note in this legislation, but once February 1st comes, every dollar that is spent by the redevelopment agency, or it won't be a redevelopment agency, I shouldn't say that, a name to be determined later, will have to be approved by what is known as an oversight board. And an oversight board is composed of 2 representatives from the county, 2 representatives from the city, 1 representative appointed by the chancellor of the community college, state community college system, 1 representative of the superintendent of schools, and then 1 representative from the largest special district in the city, which we believe is the flood control district. So when you break that down, it looks like 5 folks who really want their money and don't have a real love for redevelopment, and then you have 2 folks on the city. So every dollar that is going to be spent has to be approved by them beforehand. They also have the authority to say yes or no on projects that may be already in the design phase. They can tell us to stop right then. And return that money, and then they take that money and disperse it back to the taxing entities within the city and the county. So it's I believe Paul Casey, our assistant city administrator, termed it best. It's a very fluid situation, and it is. It seems to change every day. But we are moving forward with the items we need to do to make sure we abide by the legislation. And it's an unfortunate situation, but I think a lot of people understand it. And we've been really lucky in the past to work with great divisions within the city, whether it be Public Works on many of our projects, as well as park staff. I listed off a number of the parks projects that were funded with redevelopment agency money, and you were all a part of that, or your predecessors, as well as city park staff. And so we're very thankful for that, and we're hoping that somewhere down the line we can figure this all out and some legislation will pop up that kind of reinvents this in another way. But for now, we're going to fight for every dollar we can and hopefully continue all of our projects, but we'll do the best we can.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bossi. That was a great presentation. I don't believe we have any public comment on this item, so I'll just open up. Do any of the commissioners have questions on this? Yes, Mr. Yee?
Hi. So is my understanding is that the task of this redevelopment agency will go to the oversight board, and they will determine if they will they want to continue the projects that are happening right now. Is that, and then in the future, is that what it is?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, not really. What they are basically charged with doing is unwinding the redevelopment agency. So by continuing to do projects, I think they're continuing the activities of the former redevelopment agency. My understanding from the legislation is what they're charged with and what they plan on doing is, if you are in a contract for construction, something in a legally binding, enforceable obligation, they will hopefully let you continue that. And our hope is that they will. However, if you are not in a legally binding obligation for design or any other thing, my understanding is that they can give you a timeout, stop that project, and return that money, and then they will disperse it amongst the taxing entities. I don't think they have any desire to continue, the way the legislation is written, to continue the actions of the redevelopment agency other than to unwind it, selling off properties and things of that nature, and closing out projects so they can reap that money back.
So does that mean that the work the redevelopment agency is doing right now will not be transferred to another committee so that these projects can be continued on in the future?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, that is correct. There will not be any more funding coming to the redevelopment agency, which has been given the redevelopment agency the ability to do those projects. So the money we have on hand, they have the ability to take most of that money away. Of course, we're going to fight for every dollar of it. We think we have obligations to a number of projects and programs, whether they're in design or construction, we're a little bit more comfortable on. As I said, a number of the construction projects, we're comfortable enough that we've kept them going. The 2 restroom projects, wrapping up Carrillo Recreation Center, and the Chase Palm Park electrical project. Outside of that, we've frozen everything because we're really not sure. But my understanding is that it won't continue.
And also, how many people will be laid off from the redevelopment agency here?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, it is our hope that no employees of the redevelopment agency will be laid off. There is a whole lot of work to do in this unwinding process, meaning on February 1st, we just don't walk out the door. There's a whole lot that needs to take place over the coming months. They do provide you, the state and the legislation does provide you a budget to wind that down, so they do understand that part of it, that you can't just turn off the lights, close the door, and walk out. So we are working right now. There are about 10 folks who are paid directly with redevelopment agency funds, whether it's from 10% redevelopment agency funds or they're paid 100% by redevelopment agency funds. And we're working with our Human Resources Department with retirements and people moving on in the city and kind of move people around to fill those already existing vacancies.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Trenikoski.
I really enjoyed your presentation. You made things very clear. Thanks. Quick question. You did mention unencumbered funds and current and future projects. Are there any funds that are long-term committed, say, that are not part of a project per se, such as the 8% of the housing you mentioned, that are long-term committed? And if so, is there a plan for how those would be unwound?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, that's a great question, and it's one we seem to ask ourselves every day as to what the state considers an enforceable obligation, and they do have language that describes what they feel as an enforceable obligation, and it changes throughout the legislation as time goes on in there, with the idea of whittling it down. An enforceable obligation under the state's definition is something that has a contract that was let, either construction and we're hoping design, that was done. There are a number of dates. One is before June 29th of 2011, which is when the state budget took effect. The other date is backing up retroactively to January 1st, 2011. So we think we're very safe in contracts that were let in from December 31st, 2010 back. But the others we are a little concerned about. However, we feel that a construction contract, once you let a construction contract, you have an obligation to pay that. As far as looking at projects with future funding that was designated for those projects, I'll give you an example. The police station currently has actual dollars and cents in the account of a little over $7 million. In June, Council put another $13 million in future redevelopment agency funding towards that project. So as we were winding down, even though we were going to wind down in the next 3 to 7 years, that money we were hoping to put some money aside so we would have a chunk of money for that. Same goes for the Cabrillo the Cabrillo Pavilion Arts Center. As you know, we've got a $250,000 out to do a business plan and a structural assessment. That's been put on hold, but Council also moved future redevelopment dollars, I believe $6.3 million, into an account so that once that design was done for Cabrillo Pavilion, that then there would be money there to construct those improvements. So that's not their definition of encumbered. As an enforceable obligation. We are doing our best to work a paper trail back because that project has been thought about for quite some time. There have been contracts led in the meantime. So we're going to do our best to keep monies like that as best we can. But again, it's all up to this oversight board, and we'll do our best, and we're going to work with them and see what we can make happen.
Ms. Longstreet?
So as we look at our long list of capital projects, many of which are in the redevelopment area, in the future, are we going to be looking at funding all of that out of the general fund?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Longstreet, the general fund or some other fund, yes, unfortunately. When you take away the funding that the redevelopment agency gets, and right now those revenues are approximately $20 million per year. A good portion of that goes to pay debt, and that debt was so we could get money up front to do projects. So a good portion of that goes to pay debt. We'll still get that. The state has to give us that money to pay off the debt. The affordable housing dollars, which amounts to at least $4 million a year, that goes away. So your remaining, it's about $7 to $8 million that we could spend on capital projects on an annual basis. That, as well as that $4 million, goes away. It does go back to the county, and they disperse it among the taxing entities. What the city would get out of, say, that $12 million is about 13% of that. So they're going to get about $1.2 to $1.5 million, depending. And so, that's going to go back into the general fund. However, and I'm starting to get into too much detail, there's just so many things involved with this. By eliminating the redevelopment agency, we do, as an agency, pay overhead costs as part of the city. We pay legal fees, and those two things amount to about $750,000, which are now going to have to be assumed by the general fund. So that 1.2 to 1.5 million, a good chunk of that is going to have to be moved over to fill in, and those are just two real obvious examples, but there are going to be other ones throughout where costs get put back on the city. So a good portion of that money that's coming back to the general fund is going to have to be used to absorb.
It's encumbered
that.
already, basically.
In a sense.
Yeah. Well, I just really appreciated all the projects we had, and having the redevelopment agency as a funding source was really benefited the public. All these projects we're talking about are places that the residents and visitors to Santa Barbara use. So it's sad to see it go away. So thank you.
Anyone else? I had one question, which I think Intern Yee touched on, and that is things like De La Guerra Plaza. That's an RDA project, right? And that's been in design for a long time. So would you deem that safe in terms of, finishing this phase of the design? I mean, I realize it's in, I don't know if it's in concept phase or design development phase, but
Madam Chair, that's a great question. And actually, in that particular instance, the design, it has been in design a long time.
I didn't know how else to put that. But
that's not something we usually like to say, but in this case, it may actually help us. So it does go back a number of years, well before the dates that have been established by the legislation, AB 26. However, it is in just a design phase, and one of the things or at least how the Department of Finance is looking at this, the California Department of Finance's design, they think that may be okay to finish that portion of the design that you're contracted for. However, you finish that, and that's it. The funds that have been set aside, the $2.2 million that have been set aside for the actual construction of it, I believe their understanding is that's not encumbered, but we're going to work our way through it. And again, that paper trail to show that this has been in the works for quite a long time. We've spent a good amount of money on that, and it's an obligation of ours to the community once we put in all this money to finish that project up. So we've actually been going through each and every project that we have a number of times per week to plug in what the legislation is saying and what our understanding is, and working that out. So
great. Well, that's a clear answer, and I guess the optimistic view is, or the only rose you can find in the field of weeds regarding this, is that some of these projects, the design will advance at least to under, so that's a good thing that we can get at least a little more progress out of it before it goes away.
that is our hope.
Yeah.
And again, everything is up in the air, and it's really frustrating. I wish I could come in here and tell you, here's what's going to happen, and here's how it's going to happen, but we just don't know that. And this is it. This is not just our redevelopment agency. This is 420 some redevelopment agencies in the state who are all struggling with how to figure this legislation out. So it's tough, and we're hoping for the best.
Well, I don't envy your job. I'll tell you that. That's a struggle. So, thank you very much for your presentation. That was excellent and very informative. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we are going to move on to community service recognition, the fun part, and we have a special guest, and Ms. Rapp, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Wiscombe and Commissioners. And before I turn the program over to Sarah Hanna, I just do want to say that this is one of the more special recognitions for many of the staff in the department, some of our commissioners who have known her a long time, and certainly for many people in the community who have benefited from her passion and advocacy. So we're very, very pleased to recognize the contributions of Raquel Mendoza, and with that, I will turn it over to Sarah Hanna.
Raquel, would you come up? No. Raquel's a feisty one.
So we're here today to honor and recognize Raquel for her community service work. And I must say, if this award, on a different day, it could be called the Good Neighbor Award, because Raquel has immense neighborhood pride. And when she sees something that needs to be done, Raquel steps up and does it. And it probably started in small ways with sweeping and picking up trash and removing graffiti, but then she would also instill her neighbors and folks that she knew within her community to help her get things done, particularly the youth, and to help them learn to have pride for their neighborhoods. But when we recognized this, and Raquel, Antonio Velasquez asked her to serve on the West Side Community Center Advisory Committee, which she started to serve on in July 1997, and has continued on and also continued into the new Neighborhood Advisory Council. So she has had strong service to the department and great resident advocacy. Raquel's not afraid to speak her mind. And when there's a problem out there, she would either come to a staff member or she may go directly to the department head to talk about how she feels about something and that change needs to be made. So she would keep pecking away at it until something was done. So we really appreciate Raquel for being a strong resident advocate. And we also thank her for the years of service that she had to our department through cooking holiday dinners, to volunteering for food distributions, for working on block parties that may be out in the neighborhood, and just bringing people together, giving them a sense of neighborhood and pride. And I don't want to take, too much more time, because I know there's others that would like to speak to your outstanding community service that we've had from you. So thank you, Raquel. I'm sure there's a few others that want to make some comments.
At this point, what I would like to do, and in recognition of the special role that Raquel has had with the community, the mayor has would like to make the presentation, and so if I could have the chair of the commission come down and the mayor.
Yes. Okay. Well, I've known Raquel as long as I've been in Santa Barbara, and through many different hats. I was, as a council member, the liaison to the West Side Community Center Advisory Committee, and been following the process with the Neighborhood Advisory Group. And you not only tirelessly work every single day to make Santa Barbara the best place it can be, but you get other people to do it too. It's very hard to say no to you, Raquel, I have to say. And you make real good pozole, and each and every year, and I know that's been a highlight for you. And I truly appreciate, especially on the West Side and in your role there, bringing kids together, seniors together, the community together on making it as fabulous a place as it can be. And people know who you are, and they know not to reckon with Raquel. So on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Department, and I'm very pleased our chair's here too, do a very small token of our appreciation for the many, many years. You need a bigger paper. But it says, presented to Raquel Vela Mendoza for her outstanding support of neighborhood activities and her many years of service working to improve the lives of children and families in Santa Barbara, particularly the West Side community. And I want to thank you, and make sure let Leslie say things too, but hand that to you. And you always have your mascot there.
Yeah. Thank you. My pleasure. Let me tell something. I don't speak very well English, only one, for my convenience, okay? I'm so very hard working, never working for one penny in United States. All my time, I come in 65 illegally, and I demonstrate to everybody, and you have something, feelings in your heart, you can share with everybody. I don't care the color, I don't care the position. But now, last year, I'm very frustrated because I see the position, supposedly my boss, because for me he is my boss, and I recognize Antonio probably 30 years ago. And I'm very frustrated because I don't see nobody in her position. Why? Because don't have money? Give me a break. I need somebody represent the community and the government. Something special when Antonio, I don't think so you found nobody. And I wish you don't spend a lot of money for bring somebody for Germany or for French. Okay? Locally have a good representatives and good people. This is because I'm retired, and let me tell the truth, I'm so frustrated. I have so many things. I don't disappear for Santa Barbara. You see me in any office someday. And thank you, but this is for my people, for the people that can speak. Because the language, because they're so very afraid, because it's embarrassing. I'm never embarrassing in front of nobody. Mm-hmm. And good luck, and I hope so. Never found me in the street. Thank you so much.
Raquel, thank you very much. Oh, don't go away. Well, Raquel, don't go away, because there's some people here that I know want to speak to you. But first of all, I want to know, come on, introduce your friend there. I've met your friend before.
Oh, this is my bodyguard.
Yeah.
This is a long history. I have a granddaughter when she's 6 months old. Some neighbor give to my granddaughter, say me, Raquel, I have a present for my baby. And I think and everything, but never think bring me a Chihuahua. Till now, my granddaughter have 35 years old, is a social worker in Long Beach, California, and still have dogs. When this born, my husband tell to her granddaughter, baby, I want one. Look at who take care of the dog. The dog take care of me. And I'm so very, very nasty lady. I go in the bus, want my dog, and they empty the bus. And somebody say me, excuse me, you have a permit? Yes, I have a permit. This is a service dog? No. I'm the service lady for the dog. The dog no service to me. And it's special. Now, I say, if somebody want it adopted, I give it to you. Not to.
Raquel,
Don't go away.
I just wanted to say that my first memory of you is probably 26 years ago, when we started working on the Lower West Side and doing community organizing. And I just remember you on top of the footbridge organizing all those elementary school age kids with brooms and getting them to clean stuff up. And ever since then, every time something needs to be done, you're always there. And I have appreciated all your hard work, and I expect to see you at the next organized event too. Because just because you're not coming to the meetings doesn't mean we won't have you working.
I don't like to go to the meetings. Let me explain. I don't like to go to the meetings. I don't criticize the new members because everybody has her own feelings. But why lose 3 hours in one meeting for one topic? 3 meetings, 9 hours for nothing? Forget it. And I'm so very nasty. I tell to one of the members, excuse me, you are born in here? Yes. Oh, congratulations. After the same thing, excuse me, you are a North American? Yes. Oh, congratulations. The same
But,
topic.
Raquel,
No.
you'll just keep poking us and we'll get moving. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. And you see me around the town. Don't worry. Be happy.
Madam Chair, if I could
for your
just add
service.
one more thing. Raquel,
One more time.
one more thing. So I do expect that you will still drop by my office.
I don't think so.
Oh.
you
It's okay.
wanna see me?
The door is open. But I do want to let you know that Antonio is difficult to replace, but
It's very difficult, I
yes,
understand.
but I want to assure you, we are still fully engaged in a search for that position. And you yourself just described how special that person has to be. It's really important to us to get the right person,
But I need
even
a
if we
replace.
have to wait to get it. So I want you to know that that's really important to us, and
Yeah.
it's frustrating as well because it does take a long time. But the position was not cut or any decision related to budget. So
And no, I
it's
take it the
just a
position,
matter
don't
of
worry.
getting the right person for the job. And thank you very much. And I have to say, in addition to your pozole, if you were lucky enough to have her turkey mole, was fabulous. So thank you very much on behalf of the
I'm
community.
expecting my check.
There you
I'm
go.
expecting my check.
Thank you, Raquel.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Someday I'll give a surprise, don't worry.
Thank you, Raquel. Okay. Okay, we have another community service recognition, and we have Ms. Susan Young here. Welcome, Ms. Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the council, for the past 10 years, the downtown organization, in conjunction with the Parks and Rec Department, has provided and coordinated and created an award in honor of the former mayor, Harriet Miller. And the award was designed to give it to a youth who's leading in the city, but also a youth who has a great interest in community service and giving back to others, as Harriet Miller did. And so each year we have an opportunity to participate with the downtown organization in the application process. It's an application process as well as an essay and a process in which young people sit on with the downtown organization and determine who that person will be. It's very competitive and it's very difficult because there are some wonderful young people out in the community doing things. However, this year the person that was selected was our very own youth intern on the Creeks Advisory Committee, as well as Santa Barbara Youth Council, and that person is Annie Marroquin. If I can get her to come up. And I'll tell you a little bit of the reasons why Annie was selected. In addition to being on the Creeks Advisory Committee as the youth intern and serving as the publicist for the Santa Barbara Youth Council, Annie has an extensive, busy day. She is the president of the Pathways to College Club at DP. She's the president of the Environmental Club at DP. She's the president of the Humanitarian Club. She is an ASB representative, and she's a communication coordinator on DP. Off campus, she volunteers for the Santa Barbara Zoo Camp. She volunteers for the Ty Warner Seed Center exhibit. She volunteers for the Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital as well as the Cancer Center. She is on the Coalition of Youth Advocates who work to try to keep youth from getting involved with tobacco. She's also a volunteer for the Santa Barbara Green Business, Heal the Ocean Junior Council, Earth Day, French and Viva La Vida Festival, among other things that she's part of. And she does all this by while maintaining a 4.27 grade point average. In her own words, she says that, I believe the most significant part about community service is its ability to bring a sense of unity and belonging to anyone involved. And she thanks those that have let her volunteer because she says every time she volunteers, she learns a little bit more about herself. When selecting her college, what she wants to go to for college, she wants to pick a community that will allow her to even do more community service. So with all of those things, and I'm just giving you a very short synopsis, she was selected this year as the 2012 Harriet Miller Youth Leader. Annie.
You have been one busy young woman, Annie, I'll tell you. I was particularly taken by your, which Susan just read your quote on how you felt about community service, because I think most of us feel exactly the same way. You form a bond with other people when you do community service, and you have a sense of ownership over the things that you accomplish together. and it's quite contagious. And you must have the disease because you are in a lot of different things. But on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Department and the Parks and Recreation Commission, we'd like to congratulate you and present you with this certificate for outstanding community service.
Thank you very much. Thank you. First, I just want to say thank you to the City of Santa Barbara and Parks and Rec for just creating a wonderful community and providing such exciting opportunities that has made growing up these 17 years so like a thrilling and fulfilling experience. And I'm sad to leave for college soon, but I can't wait to go start again in another community and kind of get working on there too. So again, thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any comments? Yes.
Annie, we've been friends for a bit now. And I want to congratulate Annie for receiving such an honor, a great award. I've seen her work at school, and she's a great leader. And she's a very outspoken critic on environmental issues. And I know she'll be continuing to do that in college also. So thanks.
Thanks, Michael.
Yes, Ms. Longstreet.
I'd just like to say congratulations to your parents for raising such a wonderful young woman. So they did an excellent job, and good luck in college. I know you're just going to be bang up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annie.
Thank you.
Congratulations again. Do you know where you're going yet to school? Or?
Not yet. I'll find out probably in March and April. So fingers crossed. So.
Good. Well, we're all rooting for you. I'm sure you'll be at your first choice. But
hopefully.
Yeah. And what will you be studying?
I want to do international affairs with an emphasis on environmental studies.
Great.
So
good. That's great. That'll have a lot of career opportunities for you too. Yeah. Good. Well,
thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. We are moving on to the Youth Council report. Mr. Yee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure of the date, but the Youth Council participated in the Martin Luther King event, King Jr. event, on the Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The Youth Council members who attended described the event as extremely empowering and informative, and they were able to learn more about how Dr. King was able to help solve issues of discrimination and such. Also, on a happy note, the Youth Council received the Kids Network Youth Impact Award in the county. So we will be attending a banquet on February 29th to receive the award. There were 2 individuals who got the award, and we were the only youth organization that received the award. So we are very excited about that. Also, April is the Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we will be supporting that. I believe the date is April 25th, when it's the Wear Jeans Day, Denim Day. So the story is that in Italy, a few years back, well, okay, never mind. Sorry. But it is Denim's Day, so I encourage all of you to wear Denim Day. Wear jeans to support I guess, Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Also, Youth Council we hold annual speak outs. Last year we held a speak out on teen rights, where we informed teens, where we invited police officers and domestic violence person and other informed authorities on teen rights issues to inform teens about their rights, I guess. So this year, on March 19th, the Youth Council will be holding an environmental speak out. The specific environmental issue has not been confirmed yet, but we will update you on that as soon as possible. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mr. Yee. Can you tell us a little more about the award that the Youth Council received? Were you attending the banquet?
About the banquet or?
The actual, you said you received an award for?
Yeah, we received an award for, it was our teen rights, our work in the community basically. Our teen rights workshop last year, which had a great impact on teens, and the work we have done with the teen center, I believe, and the skate park.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yee, for that. And we'll move on to commissioner and committee assignment reports, and we'll just go down the row. Mr. Farrar, do you have anything?
I don't. I was under the weather that night, but Miss Longstreet was there, so she'll share on that.
I attended the Neighborhood Advisory Council last week, I guess it was. We had received a report from the Police Activities League on their programs within the community, and members will be attending the Transportation and Circulation Committee meeting tomorrow night, where the recommendations for Milpas Corridor will be discussed. The committee still is very concerned about safety on Milpas Street, and Public Works will be giving a presentation to the NAC next month on their findings in that area and hearing comments from the community. I also attended the Park Foundation meeting, and I will let Mr. Burns comment on that.
Thank you. Basically, Park Foundation is we are looking for money. And we're trying to raise money. We're going to have some events in the spring and another event in the fall, and that's basically what the Park Foundation is doing right now.
Well, basically, though, to support the Parks and Recreation services for the community.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Trentacosti?
Yes, I did attend the Golf Advisory Committee meeting, and I know, Chairman Wiscombe, that you used to attend those, and I have to say this was the most positive meeting I've ever attended of this group, a large part because revenue was up for the month, and rounds were up even more. And this was attributed to the good weather we've been having, as well as the course conditions. There have been a lot of talk around town about the condition of the golf course, and it is in excellent shape. And word gets around, and so it was very positive meeting. The other thing is we have committed we will be in the next issue of the Pocket Concierge that you get from the Visitor Center, as well as other hotels around town. So that should give us some good visibility. And finally, the lesson specials that I mentioned last month have been really doing well. I even bought one for myself. So hopefully that will help the golf course as well as the golfers. Thank you.
And thank you for that recommendation. I, too, purchased one as a gift.
Thank you.
You don't need lessons, do you? Well, my husband was out there today playing, so he's supporting it. So, okay, and I attended the Street Tree Advisory Committee meeting on January 5th, and as you all know, we have new Street Tree Advisory Committee members. So Mr. Downey spent some time reviewing the pertinent Municipal Code Section 15 regarding the street and setback trees that was appropriate for the new advisory committee members to understand, and we all have a copy of that. And he also provided a link for all the staff members to the Brown Act, so we can follow proper, they're all up to date and up to speed on proper procedures at the Street Tree Advisory Committee meetings. And we did site visits to the trees on our agenda this evening, and that's all I have. So, so we'll move on to commission and staff communications. Ms. Rapp, do we have anything there? No. Okay. And we're going to move on to agenda item number 3, which is summary of council actions. Do you need to discuss anything there? No, they're in your packet, so we have those. Does anyone have any questions on them? Or okay. And approval of minutes from the regular meeting on December 14th, 2011.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, you're moving faster than I can write. Street Tree Advisory Committee items. Any action of the Parks and Recreation Commission made pursuant to the Municipal Code Chapter 15.24, Preservation of Trees, may be appealed to the City Council within 10 days. So that being said, we will move on to agenda item number 5, which is front yard tree removal request from 16 Alameda Padre Serra. And Mr. Downey, you want to, do you want to talk about this, or do you want me to talk about, this has been to the commission before. Are you going to discuss that?
I'll discuss that.
Okay, great.
Chair Wiscombe and Commissioners, this item was at the December 14th meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Due to a posting error on the tree, the wrong date was placed on the posting for the tree. The applicant didn't get an opportunity to speak at that meeting. We are bringing this back to the Commission so that the owner has an opportunity to speak on behalf of their application. The trees are 3 king palms in the front setback at 16 Alameda Padre Serra. Concerns were that the trees are getting a little tall. They can no longer maintain them. They planted the trees with the intent to see palm trees, and now all they see is the trunks of those trees. They're proposing to replace the trees with bottle palms. The Street Tree Advisory Committee at their December meeting recommended to the Commission that the application be denied, and commented that the applicant could plant the bottle palms, and once the canopies develop, they could then apply for the removal of the larger trees. That is the recommendation to you today.
Okay, so my understanding is that the Commission may uphold their previous decision, which was to go with the Street Tree Advisory Committee's recommendation and deny removal of the trees, or the Commission has the authority to change that. Is that correct, Ms. Rapp? Yes.
Yes, Chair Wiscombe. I was just clarifying that the action that you described, that you said was taken by the Street Tree Advisory Committee, was that actually the Street Tree Advisory Committee or the action that the Commission took at their December meeting?
Chair Wiscombe and Commissioners, what I mentioned was the recommendation from the Street Tree Advisory Committee. At your December meeting, you took that action. You concurred with the Street Tree Advisory Committee.
Right.
And so just to go on from that point, yes, the Commission, we want to have you have the opportunity to hear from the applicant, and if in fact the Commission wishes to reconsider their action, then they can do that. This item is listed as for action on your agenda.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Rapp. So, yes, Mr. Dalbello? Yes. Welcome.
Thank you so much. My name is Pete Albello. I live at 16 Alameda Padre Serra, and I'm the founder and president of the International Chiari Association. I have Chiari malformation, which is a serious neurological disorder, which is why my mother and I are requesting that the 3 king palms in the front yard be replaced by Nicholas Gosnell, an arborist with Steel Tree Service, with 3 bottle palms for easier maintenance. We are willing to donate the king palms to the city as the tree's height, which is 25 to 30 feet already, and maintenance are too difficult for my health. We also cannot take care or afford to hire someone to care for these tall king palms, and it doesn't help anyone's property values, ours or those in the neighborhood. I am including photos of the palms. Also, it shows pictures shows in comparison how much taller it is than the house itself. You can have those, and then also these are, here's an example of the bottle palms, and you can. And I know the original recommendation was to plant the bottle palms in between, but it's hard enough to take care of 3 trees. Then all of a sudden we have 5 trees. And as mentioned, this is more of a, more than just a removal. It is a replacement of palms with the offer of donating the 3 king palms to the city. The house was purchased by my parents on July 30th, 1970, long before the housing prices exploded. So we're not wealthy people, and both of my parents worked for the city, and as you all know at the city, it's not wealthy jobs. I trust that you will rule in our favor, as it is a win-win for all parties involved.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Del Bello. I appreciate your comments. Okay. We're going to open it up now back to the commission. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Mr. Ferrara.
I do, Mr. Del Bello. I have a question. How did you care for these trees for the last 10, 15 years?
Well, for a while they were not anywhere near this tall. And then eventually it got so tall, and as you see in the pamphlet, that I didn't know we were supposed to bring like 10 copies. That's why I only presented one, with that Mr. Burns is holding, that in 2008 I was diagnosed with Chiari malformation, and anything of that height is too much of anything. So what we've done already in the past is trying to eliminate as many trees that are tall or anything that's of a tall structure. And if, like I said, if I didn't have Chiari, I wouldn't be here. And I told my father years ago that it's going to get so tall that we won't be able to take care of them. And this was long before I knew I had Chiari. And but he didn't want to listen. And now we're here today dealing with trees that are much too tall and are going to be getting taller. And like I say, if we can't take care of them, then that doesn't help the value of our property or the value of the properties in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm.
These trees need what on an annual basis? Do they need to have the fronds lopped off, the dead fronds taken off, or what kind of care do these trees need?
Chair Wiscombe and Commissioner Ferrara, these trees are they self-clean. Everything that grows from this tree eventually falls off. Many people desire to cut the fruit off before the fruit drops because it creates a mess. And in a situation where it would be next to parked vehicles, the older fronds are cut off so that when it falls, it doesn't hit a vehicle. These trees are in quite a wide planter, so unless a wind would blow something from the tree, the debris would fall into that planter.
I see, so that any kind of upkeep would need to be at the base of the tree more than anywhere else.
Chair Wiscombe, Commissioner Farrar, no, in order to, if they were to decide to prune things off the tree before they fell off, that would be at the top of the tree.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I had one question, Mr. Downey. The proposed replacement palm, the bottle palm, how tall does that tree get?
Chair Wiscombe, the literature says that they're a fairly small palm. I'm not familiar with the palm in this community to know how large they'll get, but if I were to guess, they would remain eventual height of about 10 to 12 feet.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Trinacosti?
Mr. Downey, Mrs. DeBello was kind enough to offer the trees as a donation to the city. Is it possible to replant a tree that large?
Chair Wiscombe and Commissioner Trinacosti, trees of this size are transplanted. The larger the tree, the greater the risk of success, and the higher cost to actually move them and transplant them. I'm not certain that the city would be able to utilize these trees.
These are a fairly fast-growing palm anyway, are they not? The king palms, they grow pretty quickly.
Chair Wiscombe, Commissioners, the king palm is considered one of the moderate growing palm trees.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Comments? Motion? How does anyone feel about?
I would make a motion, we just go ahead and concur with the same decision we made on December 14th. That's where I would tend to.
Okay, so motion to deny removal at this time.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone second that motion?
I second.
Okay, discussion?
I have one question. This was a phased-in recommendation. Can we waive a second application fee for removal once the trees are established, let's say in 18 months, have the street tree committee revisit this issue and see if it's appropriate at that time for removal?
Chair Wiscombe, Commissioner Longstreet, we could waive a application fee the next time.
Would the maker of the motion add that to it?
That's fine. That when it's revisited in the future, that fee be waived.
Okay, and how about the seconder of the motion?
I concur.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And as you do have, you may appeal the decision of the commission to the city council within 10 days. And Mr. Downey can go through that process with you. Okay? Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 6, which is 6A1, which is 124 Palisades Drive. Mr. Downey?
Chair Wiscombe and Commissioners, 124 Palisades Drive is a coast redwood that had been cut down at some point and resprouted into 7 trunks. Some of the trunks have died. Some of them are in questionable health, and some of them look okay. The Street Revisor Committee reviewed this site and determined that given the condition of the trees and the opportunity to plant other trees in the area, they recommend that the removal be approved on the condition that the applicant plant a street tree along this property.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Downey. We don't have anyone for public comment on this item, so I'll open it up to the commission for question and discussion and motion. Yes, Mr. Burns.
I looked at it and took a while to realize it was just one tree, and I would move that we concur with the Street Tree Advisory Committee and let this tree be removed.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, so we're moving on to item 6A2, 2433 Calle Soria. Mr. Downey?
Chair, Westcomb Commissioners, 2433 Calle Soria is a property with many trees along the side of the property that completely shade the backyard of this property. The applicant is requesting to remove 3 of the eucalyptus and 3 of the pines and retain 3 of the eucalyptus to thin out this stand of trees. The committee determined that that would provide additional sunlight to the backyard, thus, making it a desirable place to be, and without impact to the community, because the 3 remaining trees would still provide the canopy cover for the neighborhood. The recommendation is to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. And we don't have public comment on this item. I'll open it up to the commission for questions and discussion and motion. Yes, Mr. Farrar.
I do have a question. I notice here, Mr. Downey, that it's on the request it's for 3 pines and 3 eucalyptus globulus, but in the letter that they send, they're asking to remove 3 pines and 1 eucalyptus and then prune the rest of the eucalyptus. Can you explain the difference there and why that's... I'm a little confused.
I had the same.
Chair Wiscombe and Commissioner Farrar, the applicant is requesting to remove all but 3 of the eucalyptus.
I think that I can't find it right now in the letter, but there's a word in the letter that misinterprets. It interprets, you interpret it as trimming when it really means removal. I think it's thin out. I think, yes, that was the words that they used, meaning that they wanted to thin the stand of trees and eliminate them, because I had exactly the same. It didn't match up for me either when I first looked at it. But
as long as everybody's clear on that, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Longstreet?
I would just make a motion that we concur with the recommendation of the Street Tree Advisory Committee.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Downey. We are moving on to agenda item number 7, which is the beach maintenance program. And I see Ms. Fry and Mr. Escobar here. Welcome. And Ms. Rapp?
Chair Wiscombe, in the fall, there was a comment that was made at public comment on the beach maintenance program, and as a result of that, the commission asked staff to return with a report on our beach maintenance program. So that is what we have for you tonight. And presenting the report are Santos Escobar, our Parks Manager, and Kathy Fry, our Natural Areas Planner.
Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. For the beach maintenance program presentation, we'll provide an overview of our beach maintenance practices, where and how that's performed, what equipment's used, sensitive resources on the beach, and our permit requirements. The area of the beach maintenance program occurs over 2.9 miles along the beach, extending from Ledbetter Beach to the volleyball courts across from the bird refuge. Grooming, an aspect of beach maintenance, occurs on Ledbetter Beach and extends over, and also occurs at West Beach. You'll see that there's a sensitive area of Mission Creek, which I'll cover in the next slide. And here's an aerial view with the harbor in between Ledbetter and West Beach, and Stearns Wharf just east of West Beach, or up in the right-hand corner there. Maintenance occurs with mechanical grooming in the area of the center, which is East Beach. There's no mechanical equipment allowed within, let me see if I can get my cursor, there we go, to occur in this area here, which is between Mission Creek and Laguna Channel. In an area surrounding that is a sensitive habitat area of a buffer zone around the creeks, and also other sensitive habitat area at Sycamore Creek and at the outfall from the bird refuge. These areas are considered sensitive zone areas, and only hand removal of debris occurs, or any maintenance is by hand in that area. This area in between at East Beach is by mechanical equipment. And then sandwiched in between these two areas is the volleyball court, where grooming may also occur. This is the same area that was just covered, only in an aerial view, with our sensitive zones on the end and mechanical grooming in the middle. Beach grooming is a part of the sediment management plan, and within that plan and permits, the Waterfront Department performs harbor dredging, beach nourishment, and the Parks and Recreation Department performs beach grooming operations and placement of the lifeguard towers. The sediment management plan is reviewed and approved by the city and by 7 federal and state agencies. Beach grooming occurs with a few pieces of equipment and mechanical equipment, among them being the Beach King. This equipment is used from May to October 10 times, or in 10 cycles. And each of those 10 grooming cycles occurs over a 4-day period to cover the area that was shown on our maps and on our aerials that extend from Ledbetter to the volleyball courts across from the bird refuge. The Beach King equipment sorts the sand and debris, and the sand falls back onto the beach, and the debris is sequestered, and approximately 250 tons of debris is removed and recycled from our beaches each year. This is a picture of the Beach King. In the center, in the lower area between the tractor and the hopper, where it says wide load, is where the belt is, where the debris is sifted out, and then and then the sand drops back in, and the debris goes into the hopper, and then it is taken off site. Raking also occurs with beach grooming, and that is performed during November to April, approximately 6 times. A tractor drags a rake attachment through the top 4 inches of sand, and the sand is cleaned and groomed. And that piece of equipment, the rake, is also used to level the volleyball courts. Beach grooming is also performed by the hand crew, and they pick up debris and trash twice a week, year-round, on our beaches, in the creek mouths where we have restrictions from our permits, and below the rack line. And rack is the kelp from the ocean that's tossed ashore when the waves come in. When it lands on the beach, it creates a line that's termed rack. It's not a sensitive resource in itself, but it provides food for sensitive species, the insects that are found within it. The hand crews also work after large events such as the 4th of July, when our beaches have a lot of visitors. They assist when vessels come ashore, beached vessels during storm events, and they remove approximately 26 tons of debris from the beach each year. I mentioned storm events, and those events can deliver higher than our normal loads of debris, and that includes those beached vessels. That debris that comes ashore during storms can pose hazards to beach users and swimmers, so it's important to remove that from the beach in a timely manner. The weight of the debris from a storm year and an extreme year can be 500 to an extra 1,000 tons of debris. Here's an example of a storm event close to East Beach. In the very far right, you can see some of the erosion that it's caused. This is normally a beach area, kelp against the rocks, and it can move into the sidewalk and parking lot area. The work that's done on the beach also includes the placement and removal or repositioning of lifeguard towers, and that's performed with front-end loaders during May at Ledbetter, West Beach, and East Beach. It's approximately 5 or 6 towers are positioned for public safety purposes, and then in the fall they're repositioned back away from the water towards more towards the lawn area of the beach. City's beaches contain several sensitive resources. Among those are wildlife resources. The city's beaches provide habitat for sensitive species, and for the fish species listed here also provides breeding habitat. The city's responsible beach management provides stewardship and helps with the conservation of these species. They're all listed there. I won't read them all off. I'm going to show you some examples of these species. But just to let you know, some of them are federally endangered, state endangered, federally threatened. The CSC stands for California Species of Concern. The grunion is protected under California fishing regulations in the state of California. And we also have birds protected under the Federal Migratory Bird Treaty Act and marine mammals under the Marine Mammal Protection Act. On the left is the western snowy plover that's found on our beaches. It is found during the winter when it's roosting, and it uses the rack. There's actually, I can't tell if that's a rock or a piece of kelp in the corner there, but that is its habitat. It spends a lot of time walking through the kelp line to feed on insects that are found there. California least tern can be found in a similar location, although we normally have less of that species than we do of western snowy plover. Our fish and our wildlife resources. We have the steelhead, the Southern California distinct population segment, which can be found habitat and breeding within Mission and Laguna Creek or Laguna Channel. That's up in this corner here. And tidewater goby, which is found in you can see this is a rockier habitat. Tidewater goby is found in all of our beach outlets that include sand. They prefer a sandier bottom. And California grunion, which can be found along the coast, and they are not in water in this picture. They're actually on the sand outside of the water. And this is one of the reasons why the rack line or that kelp line is very important. During full moon or a new moon, they are washed ashore and breed on the bare sand outside of the tide line. And they come up at the highest tide line when you have your then it deposits rack and you have your highest rack line. And eggs stay in the sand below the rack line until the next full moon or new moon, and the water washing over them hatches the eggs, and those new small juveniles or fry are washed back into the ocean with that next wave. Other sensitive resources on the beach include sensitive habitats, including our marine environment, intertidal beach, and as far as the upland, it's pretty much the sand area. Creeks and associated estuaries are a sensitive resource, and that would include Mission, Laguna, and Sycamore. We also have the outlet to the bird refuge, which is also considered a sensitive area, although it is not a creek. We also have sensitive archaeological resources on the beach. There's a lot of agency oversight, you can imagine, with all of our special resources, our sensitive species and habitats. And we have to comply with these for beach maintenance. There's oversight by the city and by all of these federal and state agencies that are shown here. I won't go through the list. You can see those. The star indicates agencies that we have permits with for the sediment management plan. Agency permits from that previous slide include mitigation measures, including 21 special conditions for biological resource protection. And those include measures to avoid, minimize, and protect sensitive resources. And permits limit beach maintenance activities as far as time and location, including a 200-foot buffer around creeks. That's why in our first slides they're faded out. There's a restriction in that area. That's where the hand crews would work. Also, there is a restriction, and it requires equipment, mechanized equipment, to work 10 feet landward of the high tide line. And for some of the reasons I just told you, the rack provides a food source for snowy plover, and it's also the area below that area is the area where you would find grunion eggs. And here's a picture of the Beach King working out on, is that Ledbetter? That's Ledbetter, yeah. And here's, you can see the rack line. You can see that there's a definite line. The tide came in. This was the highest high tide line. And this is the area that you would find grunion within that area below the tide line. And the Beach King stays outside 10 feet landward of that area. Other biological resource protection measures include a few more regarding rack. Once again, that is when it's in the ocean, it's called kelp. As it breaks away and makes its way to the shoreline and onto our beaches, it's then referred to as rack. And our permits actually prohibit the removal of rack from the beach, and also includes a requirement that we educate the public regarding RAC. And we have a sign program along the beach that provides that information. Failure to comply with the permits that we have for the sediment management plan and beach grooming may result in fines and/or imprisonment, and this is especially with respect to measures for the Endangered Species Act. In summary, the beach maintenance program is managed by the Parks and Recreation Department at a cost of $146,000 annually, which comes from our general fund. And in closing, beaches are maintained to the maximum extent allowed by permits for beach maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fry. Mr. Escobar, do you have anything to add, or no? Okay. Okay, fine. Thanks. Very informative report. There's a lot of things in there I didn't know, and it was really interesting reading. I thank you for that. We have one speaker, so I am going to open it up to the Commission for questions only at this point. If you have questions of Ms. Fry, please ask, and then we will take public comment, and then if there's any further discussion, we can do that. Yes, Mr. Ferrara.
Thank you, Chair Wiscombe. I do have a question, then I'll reserve my comment for when we get to that point. But I was, when we have a beached vessel come up on shore, what is the cost, approximate cost, to have that vessel removed to the city?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ferrer, that's going to vary naturally because each vessel is going to differ naturally in size. And what we do when a vessel does come up to shore, we actually work with the Harbor Department, and they're in charge to go through and work with Marburg or another individual to go through and remove it off the beach. Before we actually do that, though, we do give the beach boat owner the opportunity to come through and remove that boat before we go through and actually do it ourselves, because when we do it ourselves within the city, we then go through and do a chargeback to the individual's boat. So we work real closely with, once again, the Waterfront Department.
Okay, but it does cost quite a bit to take care of it if the owner doesn't.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Ternacosti?
Question, I didn't see any mention of the larger marine mammals like the sea lions. Is there any impact to them on beach cleaning, or do they just stay out in the water and not come up on the beach much?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Trentacosti, regarding our sea lions and such, they normally don't come onto the sand. We do from time to time get some sea lions and such that will come up, though, that are actually have died, and we'd have to go through and bury them and remove them. So that does happen each and every year. So that's where we're at on that.
The reason I asked is I used to live up in the Bay Area, and there are some protected areas up there during certain seasons of the year where they actually close the beach off. And I was wondering if we have that issue here at all.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ternacosti, we don't have the issue here. When you do see, I do want to, once again, just the public out there who may be watching this presentation, if you by chance do see an animal on our beach, though, you just need to be careful, because you never can tell if an animal is sick or injured. And from time to time, we've had folks that want to go through and try to help them and such, and these animals, can bite you and cause, great harm. So I just want to make sure everybody realizes that as well.
Any other questions? I had one question. In the storm photo, Ms. Fry, that you showed, which was quite a ways back in your presentation, there was so much, do I call it wrack? There was so much kelp on the beach that there was no discernible, there's no discernible line there that I can tell, unless you call it the toe of the slope at the bottom of the rocks. So what would you do? I mean, we've had a couple seasons here where you say you do this from May to October. What would you do in a case where we've had an occasional, September storm event here in Santa Barbara and then get a condition like this? Do you just have to leave it until?
No, Commissioner Wiscombe, or Chair Wiscombe, we would go in and perform maintenance. That's an extreme and out of the ordinary event that maintenance would occur on the beach. It would not be our normal high tide line.
Okay, so in a case like this, would you be able to clean up the rack then, and what do you do with it? Do you deposit it? Water side of the ordinary high tide mark or high water mark, or? I'm just curious.
On an event like this, we'd actually go through and pick it up and we'd recycle it.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
And Chair and Commissioners, just to give you a sense of the immenseness of that effort, I forget which season it was not too long ago where we had a significant amount of rain and flooding that resulted in a lot of debris on the beach, and the cost was over $100,000 just to remove the debris. So when these events happen, they have a pretty significant budget impact because we don't budget for that.
Right. I remember there were a series of storms in September and early October 2010 when we had a lot of significant rain early on. So I think it was 2010. So that's why I just was looking at that picture. Okay. We have Mr. Rick Goodfriend here to speak, so I'm going to open it up for public comment. I can give you 3 minutes.
Sure, I'll take whatever I can get.
Just because I'm in a good mood.
Thank you. A lot of celebrations today. I appreciate being here. Thank you. And putting this on the agenda, I've been working a couple of years to do that, so thank you very much. This is the picture, but this is the picture on a nice day, a nice sunny day in Santa Barbara, where the beach is clean, there's sunny, and you have all this stuff, and there's nowhere to sit. If tourists come, they don't want to come to a beach like this. And all the flies and all the bugs, it's not cleaned. It isn't cleaned. It might be cleaned to the rack, and then 10, 20 feet up a little bit more, when there's a lot more sand. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm spending my time here, is because I like going down here. I've been there when tourists are there, and they're disgusted. It's disgusting. So I'm asking, and I do have a handout. I didn't make copies either. I talked to somebody who's in charge of the beaches in Santa Cruz, and just listening to his voice, it's very frustrating too, because he wants to clean the beaches, and there's the environmentalists who say, no, don't even touch it. And then there's people who care about the city and the locals and tourists who say, let's just clean it. Let's clean it once a week. It's going to work. I mean, there's plenty of food around the bend and on the mesa. Birds are not going to die. They're not going to starve, I don't think. But it's just so much. I mean, it looks a little bit more like this to me. If you go down out there now, you'll see it. It's like that. And then they'll clean it, and it's still, you only have maybe 10 feet of beach. So I would read this if you get a chance, because it shows both points of view. And in fact, Santa Cruz is doing a study to find out how much bacteria this really makes for people. That if you go in the water, you get sick. You'll get sick. There's like bacteria coming from all the dead kelp. And also people told me that the kelp comes from farmers. It's not natural. They cut the kelp. So this is not a natural condition. So I'm asking that staff go back, find some other ways, maybe, during the grunion season, okay, give 10 feet. It's not beach season. But after April, I think it's May, the grunion season is over, then bring it back right to the rack line. Because I care about the animals, and I see a lot of crows down there. I don't see the snowy plowers for some reason. I think the crows scare them away. So I would really look at what is realistic for Santa Barbara, what's going to help human beings be safe, and what's going to help animals be safe. Let's look at it, and instead of just saying, this is the way it is, and it's not the way it is. We can make our own policies, and then the Coastal Commission rubber stamps it. That's how it works. So,
Okay.
2 seconds. Thank you for hearing me.
Yeah, you did well. Thank
you
you
for
very much, Mr. Goodfriend. Appreciate the comments. Okay. We will close public comment and open it up to the commission for any further discussion. Anyone? Mr. Ferrara?
Thank you, Chair Wiscombe. As you heard a few minutes ago, I asked, about the approximate cost of a beached vessel. And the reason I asked that is, every winter, some winters far more than others, we get several beached vessels on the beach each year. And that costs thousands and thousands of dollars if the owner cannot pick up the tab. And it was just a thought I had that if prior to, storms that we know are coming that knowing are going to be big, if we could work with the harbor department or the city could come up with a way to go out there and make sure these vessels are tethered and anchored really securely, because the main reason that these vessels come on shore, sometimes it doesn't matter how good your anchoring is, it's still going to break loose. But most of the time, the majority of the time, these boats are just not anchored securely. And if we could get out there prior to a storm and make sure each of these vessels is anchored securely, we wouldn't have them coming up on shore as much as they are. And it would save the city, I would think, thousands and thousands of dollars of instead of having to break them up and move them out, just make sure they're anchored so they don't come to shore to begin with. I don't know if it's possible or feasible, but it would be something to look into.
Okay.
And it also give you the ability to see what kind of shape some of those boats are, because a lot of them are just anchored trash just waiting to come to shore.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else have any comments? Yes, Ms. Longstreet?
I empathize with Mr. Goodfriend's wishes for our beach to be cleaner. But having done this a while, this permitting process and what we have going on, there isn't a distinction between this beach for people and this beach for birds, or this beach. I mean, it is what it is right now, and it has been a frustration in that the permitting process itself. I mean, if we could take the money that went into the permitting process and use it to maintain the beaches, I'd be happy. But I think that's not the case, and we've seen that we're now managing a lagoon at the end of Mission Creek because we can't open the outlet any longer. Not we don't want to. We can't. So the regulations are there, and we are not the ones setting them on how to manage our beaches. So I think the staff has done a good job of outlining what those are, and the agencies. And so, the other side of that is we need those protections in a lot of ways, too. So staff walks a line, and I think you're, doing a good job. Do we need another $100,000 a year in beach maintenance costs? Probably. Council sets that. We don't. We do the best with what we have. And I commend the staff for what we do, what you get done with the money you're given. So there are a lot of issues, and I'm going to pass the buck up the budget chain on this one. Councilmember Murillo is laughing back there, but it's true. I mean, it is how it goes. I mean, I wish all of our parks were more well maintained, that we had people to put out there, a groundskeeper at each park. I wish our bathrooms could be cleaned more frequently and rebuilt more often. And it doesn't mean you don't have a valid point, but those are the realities we deal with. So I appreciated all of the constraints from the legal side on this, the permitting side, and being educated on that. And we will continue to move on with what we do. Mr. Burns?
Yeah, just, I guess, either a question or a comment for staff, but the regulations in place that we can't do anything with the RAC, it's like a federal or a state regulation. I just saw that there are regulations. I don't know if you know those.
Chair Wiscombe, Commissioner Burns, I believe that is oversight over from a few of the agencies. It may go to the Endangered Species Act for California snowy plover, and it goes to state regulations regarding grunion. And then what happens is when one of the agencies sets a condition or a requirement, then some of the other agencies state that you must comply. They include within their permit that you must comply with the other permit conditions.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I guess my only question is, you know, we have a lot of deferred maintenance. Is our beach maintenance program, has some of the maintenance been deferred on because of the budget constraints for the beaches?
Chair Wiscombe and Commissioners, we have reduced our beach maintenance budget over the last 3 years. We've reduced the number of times that we actually groom the beach. So, yes, Council has made reductions to the beach maintenance budget in response to the challenges that the general fund is having, yes.
Okay, thank you. I think, because that kind of echoes what Commissioner Longstreet said, and I think, you know, I too appreciate Mr. Goodfriend's comments. I think they're well taken, but I do think, you know, we're having to cut back on maintenance in a lot of areas based on our tough economic times. So I think we're all hoping for better times one of these years, and things might be looking better for you, and you won't be here on that issue.
Chair Wiscombe, if I could share a couple, I would like to respond to Commissioner Ferrara's comment and add another piece of information. The comment related to the East Beach mooring area and the boats that are tethered out in the water, that is very much a concern. That area is managed by the Waterfront Department. They manage the harbor as well. That is a significant concern for them, both from where it affects us, which is when the boats eventually end up on the beach, but for them, it's also the safety of that boat during a storm once it breaks free. So there is a lot of energy that goes into working with those boat owners to make sure that they are doing what they're responsible to do. They are private vessels, so we're a little, you know, hands are tied with regard to that. But there is a lot of concern and discussion about the East Beach mooring area in particular. And then the other thing that I wanted to add, because over the years I have had people who have the same concerns that Mr. Goodfriend has brought forward to you. And, you know, oftentimes they'll say, well, XYZ Beach City does XYZ. So I do want to say that these regulations, although they're on a permit very specific to Santa Barbara and what we have in our natural resources, the permitting agencies, the regulations apply to all of similar beach areas within California. So, I mean, that's one important thing to remember. And I think the other thing is that because we have large kelp beds, which are just off the coast, we tend to see more kelp and wrack on our beaches. And that's just a fact of the natural area that we live in. And can often be frustrating to people because it looks different from other beaches, but there's a natural reason for what we see when we look at our beaches as compared to others. And I think those were the only additional comments that I made, and Ms. Zachary would like to add.
Chair Wiscombe and members of the commission, the only thing I would add is, the budget has been reduced over time. If we were to have additional funds, we would still be prohibited from doing anything about the RAC. So I want to make sure everyone understands that. And the work that we do is to ensure that, in part, the safety and the cleanliness of our beach for our beach users. Ledbetter is really the beach that receives RAC. So we do have vast areas of beach in Santa Barbara that it's a different situation. We still have to stay outside of the area that's protected, but we have other sensitive resources there. So it's kind of a dance that we do, trying to balance all of our objectives and the beach environment and its sensitive resources. And additional funding wouldn't change what our permit conditions are. We would still be prohibited from doing that kind of work.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all very much. It was, Ms. Fry, thank you. It was a very informative presentation. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 8, which is the Golf Fiscal Year 2012 6-month report. We don't have that in our packets. Ms. Rapp is going to do that orally.
I am. Thank you. Chair Wiscombe and Commissioners, the timing of this meeting was such that our staff are just in the process of doing our mid-year financial report to the Finance Department. So I actually will have a report for you in your packet for next month. But as Commissioner Trentacosti mentioned, we are seeing some very positive signs out at the golf course. And through December, we saw an increase in both rounds and revenue such that with, at 3 months into the fiscal year, we were projecting that we were going to be as much as 16% below budget in revenue. And that we held all the way through November because the number didn't change much. Since December, with the great weather, the terrific course conditions, I think people are feeling a little stronger about the economy. But most importantly, I think the weather and the course conditions, we have seen a significant amount of play that continues through this week. So we are actually projecting at this point that we may only be about 10% below budget for revenue for the golf course. We have identified expenditure savings at this point to cover most of that, and we expect as we continue to be very careful and conservative in our spending and yet make sure that we are putting appropriate resources in maintaining the course conditioned so that we're encouraging more people to play. We may actually be doing a little bit better when we get to the 9-month report. But for now, what I wanted to just share with you is I think we feel that a lot of the work that we've been putting into marketing, certainly the great job that Mark Reed has been doing with the golf course, turf, greens, everything, and being blessed with great weather. We are seeing a lot of golfers out at the golf course, and we're just very grateful.
That's great. Thank you for that. Does anyone have any comments? Puts a smile on all our faces, I'll tell you. It's yeah, the golf course is in great shape, and I hope you will all spread the word to your golfer friends to play Muni, because it's a wonderful course, and it's beautiful, and it's a great time of the year, and it's looking good. So, thank you. Okay, we're moving on to agenda item number 9, which is report on Carrillo Recreation Center programs and rentals. And I see Mr. Bryant's friendly face. Welcome, Mr. Bryan.
Thank you, Chair Wiscombe. I'd like to start by expressing my appreciation for the redevelopment agency, and the timing, it was wonderful for this project to have it completed. As you heard earlier this evening, Brian Bossy had stated that we're in the wrap-up, and it sounded like there was still some work happening on Carrillo Recreation Center. However, it's really some of the reporting and financial wrap-up. The structure itself had a notice of completion issued on March 29th. The exterior improvements notice of completion was issued just about a month ago. So we really are 100% done with the project itself. It's just some of the final paperwork that's getting finished up at this time. Just this past Monday, our LEED Silver certification plaque was hung in the lobby, proudly displayed. And we are starting the new year, trying to start it as strong as possible. And as you can see in some of the reports and the figures that were included there, there are some great indicators so far. Just this month alone, we started 6 new programs, ongoing programs, at the Carrillo Recreation Center, which brings us up to 75 fee-for-service contract classes per week in that one facility alone. That does not include some of our free services or low-cost services for seniors, or exercise classes, meetings. Today we had 3 police department, or this week we had 3 police department trainings. Last week we had the Park Foundation meeting. There's quite a bit of use for the Carrillo Recreation Center. We're serving well over 100,000 people per year with that structure, and it's looking fantastic. The staff, the customers, the visitors, they all feel a great amount of pride with this facility, and it is starting to show in some of the indicators. Again, I mean, we couldn't be more fortunate with the redevelopment funding for this facility, and what it's allowing us to do for the community. Looking at the rentals first, our best year in history before we started up was 2007, when we had $60,000 in revenue. Calendar year 2011, and this was a year that we still had a quarter that we only had the ballroom and not the rest of the facility. We exceeded our best year in history by $30,000. So far into calendar year 2012, we've already booked $10,000 over what we've had in calendar year 11. So indicators are great there. Looking at the classes, we did see, of course, some significant dips during construction. For calendar year 2010, we had about $57,000 in course revenue from the facility. We've more than doubled that in 2011. During construction, a lot of our classes were moved to other locations. Some classes disbanded and moved to Goleta or just simply disbanded for the construction period because of lack of suitable dance studios. Now that we have the dance studios back, we really are seeing a lot more students. We're still struggling on some programs, as golf is struggling. Adult fee-for-service programs are still seeing a hit from the economy, but the indicators are starting to improve for us, just as they are for the golf course. We are starting to do private event rentals. We've had 5 private event rentals, or 4 private event rentals and 1 nonprofit so far, which I consider major event rentals. An organization or an individual family, for instance, can come in and use the facility for a celebration or fundraiser. They get the entire ground floor. It's a huge amount of space, and it's a great asset for downtown Santa Barbara. I've been touring event planners, caterers, party rental places, a bunch of people through the facility, and their eyes get big with excitement when they see the facility and think about what the possibilities are of how that space can be used and the different parts of the community that we can serve with that facility. We've had a family event with 400 people, a quinceañera, which was a fantastic event. The family had a great time. We've had one nonprofit event, a UCSB program coming in for a swing dance event on New Year's Eve, which was very well attended. They were so excited that they're talking to me about booking for this coming New Year's Eve or right around then. So the news has been very positive, and like I say, we're excited about the care that was given to the facility, and now it's down to the work of trying to maximize the resources that we have. And, part of that is looking at underperforming programs that may have to be eliminated and looking at those that are performing very well. For instance, Zumba is huge right now at the facility. We're up to 6 days a week for Zumba classes. It's not unusual to see over 40 people in the class. And it's a very passionate community, and they're really enjoying what we have to offer downtown. Brief presentation. Are there any questions?
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Yes, Ms. Longstreet?
I walked by the other night, and there was an event. I don't even remember when it was, but it was nice to see the courtyard used, the way that it is fenced off now, where it's still open. It doesn't block the view of the building, but there's a distinct line that you could use that space for entertaining, and it looked really great inside the ballroom where it was set up. And I just want to commend you on all the work and that you did managing that. You did. You really rode herd along with other staff, but I know you have a love of that building, and it just shows. The details are wonderful.
Mr. Burns?
Yeah, just one question. If someone does want to rent the space, do they just walk in, or who do they talk to, or how do you do that?
They can walk in. We have some information packets available at the front desk that has our pricing structure and policies, or they can simply call the Carrillo Recreation Center or any Parks and Recreation office, and they can be transferred over to us, and we'd be happy to give them that information. And yeah, I'm fielding probably a phone call a day at least right now. I'm working with some existing clients as well, but there's a lot of energy and excitement about the facility, so we are getting a lot of calls. Now is the time that people are planning, their late summer events. So it's hopping.
Well, I just had a few comments. I read your report. I was, first of all, I'd like to echo Ms. Longstreet's comments. I congratulate you. You have your heart and soul in the building, and that in the facility, and that really shows. And I'd also like to commend staff, because I think you have a very well-oiled machine that works very well together over there. Things that I took from the report: you have a lot of innovative programs. You and staff are working really hard to, mix it up a little bit and try something new, which I think is great. And I love the proactive approach that you've taken. You've increased a lot of programs, like the Zumba classes, but you've also decreased programs where the attendance has been down, and try something else. So it's I think really worked well for the revenue stream, and it's in this type of economy, it's really great to receive a report like this and look at that graph and go, oh my gosh, the last bar, this 2012 is the highest bar. That's for the revenue stream. That's just wonderful. So congratulations, and thank you very much for the nice report and the nice presentation.
Thank you, Chair Wiscombe.
Okay, are we all right to finish up here? Okay. Good. Okay, we're on to agenda item number 10, which is Aquatics, Sports, and Tennis Program Report. Mr. Hanna is here. Welcome, Mr. Hanna.
Chair Wiscombe and Commissioners, it's actually great to be here. This report's probably long overdue. I think the last time I was here doing a report was back in 2009 when we took out the deep end pool wall and successfully got through that. So it's nice to be here tonight and talk about the aquatic sports and tennis programs, some of the recent successes, and away from budget and all the challenges that we've been going through for the last couple of years. Just as a quick program overview, we were combined in the fiscal year 10 budget, and unlike the Neighborhood Outreach Services Program where the budget was merged, we still operate independently, but we all operate underneath the Senior Recreation Supervisor, which is my position. And it's actually a great fit because we all have a kind of a sporting, summer camp, instructional clinic type focus here in the community, as well as providing just drop-in programs for our citizens. We have a total of 14 facilities, and that includes the 3 junior high fields that we program through our sports program. And I'm sure you can all agree we could serve with a lot more facilities here in Santa Barbara, but as it stands right now, we only have 14. We operate 48 individual programs, and just the swim lesson program is one program represented in that 48, but there's 60 different offerings throughout the summer. So that number becomes exponential when you look at all the different offerings that we provide to the community throughout the year. The number of staff, we have 7 permanent staff, and we're almost fully staffed, which is nice. We were able to hire our pool manager and our halftime pool technician 2 years ago, and we're just missing our sports specialist position right now. And I think what makes our program so great in this community and what allows us to do this is we have about 164 independent contractors, tennis pros, co-sponsors, and hourly employees. And they're the face of the department when you go out in the community. And I wouldn't be here making these great acclamations or great statements about our programs if it wasn't for those staff. Just briefly moving into the tennis section highlights. We went through the Las Positas transition of the tennis facility to Elings Park, and I think that was a learning experience for us, but a great transition. When we first went through that, we were a lot of the tennis professionals were offering their classes at the Las Positas facility, and we weren't really sure they were going to make the transition over to the Municipal Tennis Center. We're very fortunate that 4 out of the 5 tennis professionals that were operating their classes over there at Las Positas moved over to the municipal tennis facility and are staying with us and offering those programs. Because of that, we're seeing that participation is up 6%. We served 783 participants in fiscal year 11, and I would contribute that increase primarily to the fact that now at Municipal you have all different kids participating at all different levels, and they can see that next level that they're going to go to if they stay the course and stay in their lessons and continue to move forward. Whereas before, a lot of those lessons were conducted over at the Las Positas facility without that continuation factor. In addition to the Las Positas transition, we were concerned a little bit about court rental hours. We did not lose 2 main rental groups, primarily the, I'm forgetting the name of it now, the school in Hope Ranch there, Laguna Blanca, managed to stay with us and move over to the municipal facility, and we have a high tennis clinic, high-functioning tennis clinic over there as well. So we're actually looking really good this year. Our court rental hours are up 44%, and we're looking to finish the year very strong there. In addition to the programs in the tennis section, the stadium that was built in 1937 is a great jewel for the community and for the tennis community here in Santa Barbara. It's used primarily for tournaments, drop-in play, and special events. I'll be honest, the stadium needed a lot of repair, and it was unfunded in our capital program, and the price tag was somewhere around about $1 million last time I looked at it. We were able, through some great work from our Public Works Department and our building maintenance staff, to get in there and make some needed repairs. We were able to repair seating, the walkways. We were able to give the facility a complete coat of fresh paint, and we were able to put up new windscreens. Prior to this project, the stadium walkways and seating had been closed for up to 6 months because the condition of the wood just wouldn't allow for people to use that for entry and exiting the facility. And just to kind of bring it full circle, you can see what a difference just a fresh coat of paint is, and it really is a jewel in this community, and just to be able to kind of continue this until we can get to a point where we can make some big changes there is great. Moving on to our sports section highlights, we have the free youth sport leagues, and we offer those at most of the school sites. We have the flag football, the basketball, and the soccer programs. We've experienced great increases in the last 3 fiscal years. We're up 196 kids, or 23%. And again, I contribute this to staff kind of being proactive. We've been out hiring bidder officials, coaches. All of these leagues now conclude at the end of their season with some sort of a playoff or an event. The flag football league finishes at City College. I mean, you can imagine what a great way that is to finish your season off. You're out there with the Vaqueros finish or play their games at City College on their new surface, finishing up your flag football season. The basketball programs go indoors and play at the Vaquero gym there at Santa Barbara City College. And it's just a re-energized program under Jeff Smith, the sports supervisor. We also have some fee-based youth sport leagues, and primarily these are groups that participate in our free programs, but they don't qualify underneath the joint use agreement we have with the Santa Barbara School District. And we've been successful in bringing kids in from other schools that don't fall into that agreement, as well as we started up a youth soccer league 2 years ago, and we've been experiencing up to about 100 kids a season that show up on Saturdays and just play down there at the Dwight Murphy Fields, and that's where that picture is from. The kids get a uniform, the fee's under $100, it doesn't compete with AYSO, and it really is a treat to go down there and just see all these families cheering on their kids. Again, the numbers are up about 12%. That equals about 83 kids, and we expect that number to continue to climb as well. I think one of the great things about Santa Barbara is it really has a strong sporting community, and there's not many places that I go that when they find out that I work for the Parks and Recreation Department, they're not telling me what a great time they have in our adult sport leagues. And they all know Jeff Smith because he's either officiating or he's participating in all of our sport leagues as well. We conduct a soccer down at the Santa Barbara City College field. We do volleyball and basketball both at City College, and we use the Santa Barbara High School gym when our numbers increase. And it really is an opportunity for these adult individuals to come together, participate in a sporting activity, but it's more of a social event. And, you know, there's playoffs and standings, and we post those on our websites, and we get pretty good coverage from the Santa Barbara News Press. And these people really enjoy just getting out once a week and participating in these leagues. We've been before this commission many times talking about fee increases for adult sports programs, and we've really tried to ride to a point where we're appropriately priced for this market, and I think it reflects in the number of people that we're serving. Our leagues have increased 39% as our budgets have been challenged in the last 3 fiscal years. That's a 455 player increase, and we had 1,600 participants in fiscal year 11. And I would contribute most of that to some soccer leagues that we're running throughout the year at City College and down at Pershing Park. A couple of other sports section highlights, and I'm sure Santos has covered one of these, but we've had some field improvements. The Pershing Park field that we share with Santa Barbara City College for their softball program, they invested some money through their Measure V. They did a complete upgrade to Pershing Park number 1, which is the softball field closest to the tennis court facility or closest City College there. They went in, they increased the height of the backstop, they added some throwing areas, some batting areas, really gave that field a great look, and it really has paid off with our adult sports programs that I'll talk about. And we fortunately just got to go along for the ride and benefit from those great improvements. We've also had the Cabrillo ball field improvement, which the Parks Division with some CDBG funding kind of took the lead on. And Santos told me that it was about a $25,000 project. I can tell you that field, that picture right there was the day after the rain. I think it was Monday. The field was pretty flooded, and I can tell you there wasn't a soul sitting around that field. And so the fencing not only has increased people wanting to come back and use the field for its intended purposes, but it's certainly it's certainly not discouraging the people that should be there with a permit and using those fields. We're also seeing pony baseball and some other youth groups using those fields now that the fencing's gone up, which is contributing to our numbers we're serving in the community. And with those field improvements, what we're primarily seeing is we partner with the Major League Softball program. It's an adult softball league. we got into a partnership with them, and they pretty much bring expertise from across Southern California to our community. There are 2 programs here in Santa Barbara, one at Elings Park, and we partner with Major League Softball. They operate softball leagues at all of our fields, so Pershing Park, Dwight Murphy, and the Cabrillo Field. The city used to run 2 softball leagues or 2 softball seasons. When Major League Softball came in, they doubled that, adding a summer and a winter league. And just from these improvements, they've increased by 32 teams a fiscal year, and they're at 14%. And that, when we see those kinds of increases, those are net revenue increases to our budget because we're not paying for any of the operational costs to operate the program. And then just moving into the aquatic section highlights, I talked briefly about we're able to fill our pool manager position that we were vacant for a full summer. I can't tell you what a great relief that is, not only from a safety standpoint, but from a programming standpoint. We offer swimming lessons for kids as young as 6 months up to 17 years. I think we offer very affordable lessons. We either offer 30-minute swimming lessons or 10 30-minute swimming lessons over a 2-week program for our group lessons, or 4 30-minute lessons for private sessions. Our 10 30-minute lessons don't go above $55. And, you know, when you look at this community and we're surrounded by so much water, learning how to swim in conjunction with our wading pools is a great community asset. Coming out of not having a pool manager, we had a great summer this year. We had 159 more participants participate in our Learn to Swim program. That's a 50% increase just through mid-year compared to last year. And we've expanded programs at Ortega Park Pool, and we're partnering with Santa Barbara Swim Club with a Swim America program down at Los Baños, and we're really benefiting from having that position filled. We've done some recent energy saving improvements down at the Los Baños facility, and 2 years ago the pool was operating on one of its 2 pumps, and that's not a comfortable situation when you're going into the storm season where you saw that rack line that was generated. All of the power outages we were experiencing, we only had 1 pool pump operating at Los Baños, and I can tell you if that pump had gone down, it would probably have closed us for about 10 to 12 weeks. So we were able to keep things going while we were exploring these energy efficient improvements and partnering with not only the Friends of Los Baños that funded one of the 2 pumps that we replaced, and they donated $10,000 towards that. We worked with Jim Dewey, who works in the facilities maintenance division. Basically, he's the energy czar for the city. We're able to buy pumps that just at regular operations save 20% of our electrical costs at Los Baños. We were able to couple that with a variable frequency drive system, which essentially just winds the pumps down. I don't want to complicate it. At the end of the night, when we leave there at about 8:45 at night, the pumps wind down, and the heating and all the chemicals wind down into a slower state because we don't have to meet any of the health department regulations when nobody's using the pool. Kind of ramps back up in the morning. And because of that, we've been able to save close to $14,000 in energy savings last year, or 35% of our electrical costs at Los Baños, which has come in handy because gas prices continue to increase, and so the energy savings are offsetting our gas increases. Just a quick look at what we had. This is one of the 2 pumps we had there. These pumps went in 1993, which was the first phase of the remodel at Los Baños. We have a great preventative maintenance program, and we were really at the end of the rope here as far as keeping these things going while we were waiting for the new pumps to arrive. But ultimately, a pump should be replaced every 10 years, and we were really pushing that 15 to 16 years as far as our pumps, which goes to speak to our preventative maintenance program. We were able to replace them with brand new pumps that you can see here on the picture on the left, which save us 20% in electricity, and then just all the accoutrements as far as all the nice PVC things that make things operate really well. And then on the lower right there is the variable frequency drive system, which basically just communicates automatically. It winds the pumps down, like I said, at night, and then ramps them back up in the morning, saving us costs as we go through the summer and winter seasons. Recently, we hosted a Celebrate Sunday event. It was held on January 8th down at Los Baños Pool. It was a low-key event, but we really wanted to kind of get together with the Friends of Los Baños. You've heard me talk about them once tonight. We've celebrated and recognized them before here. They partnered with the Santa Barbara Swim Club and contributed over $12,000 to some well-needed repairs and, just facility aesthetic improvements down there at Los Baños, the things that the swimmers see. People don't see the basement, and they don't understand that pumps are up or down, and they'd be interested in our energy savings, I'm sure, because they'd be asking if their swim passes get discounted. But the things that people see are what they see when they walk into that facility, and these two groups got together with a combined $12,000, and we were able to replace a lot of the items that I'm going to show you as we go forward here. I think we wouldn't be able to do a lot of these things without the partnership that we have with the Friends of Los Baños and a long-standing agreement with the Santa Barbara Swim Club. So we were able to replace all of our deck storage equipment boxes. These boxes had been there previously to 1993 remodel, so again, stretching them to the absolute last part of their life. But just to refurbish one of these was $2,400. They're high-density fiberglass designed to handle that aquatic environment down there near the ocean, and they were able to refurbish 3 of those boxes down there and give us hopefully another 15 years of life so we don't have all that equipment clutter on our pool deck. The swim club contributed over $5,000 to the new lane lines. Our old lane lines were kind of faded in color. Our flags for our backstrokers and so forth were kind of missing or faded, and then our swim placards. And you can see the two pictures there, just how different, even though there's nobody swimming in the lower right-hand picture, you can just see how vibrant those lane lines are in the swimming pool, and just everything really looks in place and looks like brand new and fresh. We were able to replace wall clocks, which helped the swimmers kind of basically do their swim sets. And then, again, just time clocks, just making upgrades, pieces of equipment that are in our locker room that were rusted, putting new workout mats in the facility. So really now when somebody comes in to swim at Los Baños, they're really greeted with a fresh outlook on the facility. And for the staff, we get to see that in the basement where a lot of people don't go. We have new pumps. That's where I'm excited. The basement's where it really all happens. The pumps and all the things we have going down there are really nice and clean as well and operating at a very high level. And I had this for Commissioner Jacobson. She's not here, but I'll make sure I pass this on to her. She had traded for the pier jump training this year with the beach lifeguards. We have set that date, and I'll make sure I pass this on to her. The only thing I don't know at this time is what the water temperature will be, but we're looking forward to her participating on that day, and it's my understanding she's going to be bringing a lot of teens down there to kind of witness her as she goes through our beach lifeguard pier training this year. And with that, that concludes my presentation tonight, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions related to the aquatic sports or tennis programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hanna. That was a great presentation. Does anyone have questions or comments? Mr. Ferrara, I'll start with you.
I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. I mean, we're talking about close to 500 young people in the last 2 years who are now off the streets and being involved in sports and flag football, soccer. I mean, it's really a huge increase. It's really, really fantastic. I love to see that. Good job.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's near and dear to my heart, and especially the swim program. I think it's one of the best, and that's where my kids learn to swim. And I think Sarah was the pool manager at that time. So, what was that? A long time ago. He's 31 now. But sorry, Sarah. But, it's so nice to see the numbers coming back up. And, I think when we combined all these things, everybody was nervous about how it was going to work. But I am so impressed just across the board with staff adapting to these changes, that the new staff that you've brought on board, the enthusiasm, it's great. So really appreciate it. And I would love to go see the new pumps in the basement because that kind of stuff excites me too.
Commissioner Longstreet, Commissioner, I'd be more than happy to host a tour of the Los Baños basement, but we are currently working with the building maintenance department to replace our heaters as well, which are significantly older than 1993 with some new energy efficient heaters. So what I'd like to do is once we get those installed and we're up and running, I'd like to have you all come down and look at the facility and take a tour, and if you'd like to take a swim, we can arrange that at the same time.
Okay. I was very impressed with the report and echoing Commissioner Longstreet, the increases are in all the programs are just phenomenal. I had one question, and it's really pretty picky, but I just was curious. When you talked about the youth sports programs, it includes both fee-based and free, and you had, I think, an 18% increase. How much do you know, Rich, off the top of your head, how much of that is free versus fee-based?
A significant part of that increase that leads to that 18% was part of the free programs that
Free
we offer.
program. Okay, I was curious because it's kind of a sign of the times, I think, a little bit. So, okay, that answered that. I also would like to see the pumps and the heaters. I think that would be very exciting. I also love things like that. Your partnerships have been really impressive. City College, Santa Barbara Swim Club, Friends of Los Baños. It's really great to see that, and you've really taken advantage of these partnerships and worked with these groups to do some pretty exciting things at the facilities. And I also appreciate your proactive and your creative approach to the programs, and I think it's incredible with the amount of reductions we've had in budget that you and staff are able to show these kinds of reports. It's just really great, and congratulations to you and your staff also. It's wonderful to see.
Thank you very much.
So, anyone else? Okay, I think, Ms. Rapp, did you have anything? No? Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, meeting adjourned.